And if we don't make it possible to alter the look of them, people are not going to use them. You know, sure, it's okay if the day creator is built into the web browser, you don't have to code it, but if it looks like shit, which it usually does when an engineer implements it, you don't want to have it in your website. If you have a pretty website, all the fancy colors, you know, rounded corners, yay, or you know, animating circles or ellipses in and out, and then you have an ugly form control. So where we are right now, it seems like the most focus is more going into eye candy than forms at the moment, to be honest, for us and for all the players. But to talk about forms, I mean, in general, the idea is very good, that we're going to have ways to choose a color and to have placeholder text automatically and things like that. Autofocus, which is, of course is going to go overused right away. But we also have email fields or search fields. And with these fields, it's more about connecting a validation term. So if you have an email field, and you can say that that field is required, the web browser is going to validate for you. So you don't need to write an enormously long regular expression to actually validate an email address, which is okay, because it's quite tricky if you want to do it properly. And with search, the only thing connected with the search field is basically just marking it up semantically. So you can distinguish a search field from a text field. And that's it. Well, the other difference is that if you use Mac OS X, you're going to get rounded corners. On Windows, you're going to get square corners. On Linux as well. So if you talk about forums, who should you actually listen to? What I would recommend, one guy is a Dutch guy called Peter Paul Koch, or PPK, and he's done a lot of research on just checking how input elements work in different web browsers. We also need to know, I should actually say, here that with all these fields, that all of these new form types, is that if you have a form type search or a number, etc., and your web browser doesn't support it, it's not going to break the experience. So the fallback in web browsers, if it doesn't understand the type, it's going to be a text field. So that's okay. So then you can see that it is a text field and you can build things on top of it. PPK has also done research on different mobile phones, how well input fields actually work. There's also a company called Wufoo, I think that's the right way to say it. And Wufoo is basing their entire business on top of building richer form experiences. And they have a lot of compatibility tables, and they have a lot of different tests that you can try directly in the web browser and see how your browser actually works. And then, coming back to the Flash thing, is that with HTML5, we're going to have video. And when we have a video element, it's going to be the Flash killer on the web. So, you know, every time a journalist asks me, they think that, okay, now we have video, we don't need Flash anymore. It's about so much more than that. But the thing with video, and one of the projects we're involved in, is universal subtitles. And what I like about this is, you know, surprisingly, the world doesn't always speak English. There are more languages out there. So the idea is that you can upload a video or have a video on YouTube and link to that. And with this project, you can go in and find a video clip, and you can add your own translation in your language. So it's just a project to make sure that as many as possible of people in the entire world can take part of the content. And that's what we need. We need people to be able to see content and to actually understand content without having to learn a new language. And in some countries, learning English, for instance, is, you know, not the first option on the list. You can also go in and you can fix some other person's text and you know, work together and things like that. We also have a project called Popcorn.js, and it's basically about making the web browser or video on the web slightly richer than just a video. So the idea is that you have timestamps in your video. So when you get to a certain time point in your video, you're going to show related content. So if you show him flying his kite, and you're going to see on a map where it's actually taking place. And and what's that? Oh, Grace. And if you have a video with Will Ferrell, you're going to see the tweets about Will Ferrell at that time. So it's just basically making content richer and having related content connected to video. And Popcorn.js is a JavaScript framework just to make sure that you can connect video to any kind of content. We also have, and it's really in an alpha state, I should say, the Butter app. You know, butter goes with popcorn. So the idea with the Butter app is basically having a visual interface where you can see the video and a little video editor, not even editor, but you have a timeline and you set different markers. And then as you can see on the right hand side, you can connect it to a map or Flickr or something like that. Being Swedish, I have to talk about IKEA. It's mandatory by law. I can't help it. So what IKEA did, which is quite nice, is that you have a video here. But as you scroll down the video, it's not just videos overlapping, but you also get cross-fading sound. So depending on how much you scroll, you're going to hear more from this video than the video up here. And looking at code, it's quite easy. The idea is that you have a video element, you have an attribute stating if you want to have visible web browser controls for the video, play, pause, etc. And then you have a source attribute, where you just point to the video that you're going to show. And what I also like here, and which is different from just using Flash or something like that, is that video is just any other element in the page, just like a div or something like that. So if we had a video like this from NASA about the moon landing, the thing is that you can just use CSS on top of this and you can manipulate the video. And you can also rotate the video, but you still have the native controls in the web browser. And this is nothing extra needed. It's just part of the general web browser experience. And you can also use SVG, like scalable vector graphics, and you can make filters with them, and you can just overlay the video with that. So if you want to make sure that it's even more unclear, you have a blur filter. You can invert the colors, or do black and white, or noir. And it's all happening in real time. You just have the video. So I think that's the real power of HTML5 and CSS complemented. You do it all together. It's all these forces come together that make a difference. Canvas.
Oh,
So, I mean, we all knew that Internet Explorer was the kid eating glue, right? So, the idea of Canvas and this picture is basically about drawing, and it's turned into a lot of games as well. And with Canvas, it's basically like a drawing board directly in the web browser. In this case, it's a music video for a band, and the idea is basically that all of these small parts are videos playing in Canvas. And then you can break out every video, and then you're supposed to finish the puzzle before the video ends. I didn't make it in time, so I'm going to move on now. It's also about making things pretty so important. So we can make any kind of drawing, and then we can draw things on a canvas from there. So it's not just about pixels anymore, but you have actually drawing points, and you can do arcs and lines, etc. So then the way you code it is like a pen on a paper. But except for those projects, we also have a project in Mozilla called PDF.js. And if you're using, especially Windows, if you ask me, and if you want to watch a PDF file, it's quite painful. Or it has been for a long time. You need adequate reader, etc. The idea with PDF.js is in JavaScript, have a PDF interpreter. So if you want to load the PDF file directly in the web browser, you go through this library, and then you can see the contents of the PDF file. No plugins, no dependencies, you just see the content. So it's just one extra step to try and eliminate plugins you don't need. So it doesn't support everything in PDF, but it supports most of the basic things. You can get a thumbnail view and go through and read text, etc. And in the latest versions of Firefox that nightly releases, it's in there as well. So look at the code for working with canvas. It's the same as video, basically. You have a canvas element, you give it an ID, and you give it its dimensions, the width and the height. And everything from there on happens in JavaScript. So you get a reference to that element, but you also get a reference to the element's context. So it's going to be two-dimensional in this case. And then you can just start drawing. So you set that the fill style in this case is going to be red. Then you use the fill rect method. And all of these methods, like fill rect, the first coordinates are the position, the x and the y within the canvas. Like where do you want to start? Top left corner. Okay? And then how wide is it going to be and how high is it going to be. You can also use clear rect. So basically if you draw something in there and use clear rect, you're just clearing a rectangle in the middle. And that's one of a few options that you can do. Because with Canvas, as opposed to working with SVG, Canvas doesn't create any DOM elements. You can't access just a line within the canvas. A canvas is just a big blank paper. So if I were to draw something here, to keep on drawing something is harder. So it's just easier to erase it with something like clear rect and then start over, start over, start over. And Canvas is quite performant, so that's why you can do it, and that's why it's a good option to build games as well. So with the history API, it's something we should have a long, long time ago. Like you remember when Ajax came and everyone was doing everything with Ajax, and as soon as you did something with JavaScript, it was Ajax. The problem though is that with Ajax, and we have this in many different cases, like if you were going to a website and they were using Ajax, and they were doing dynamic updates to the web page, but you know, and you clicked around 15 times, and you click the back button, and everything's gone. So the idea with the history API is in the web browser that you, as a developer, can push things into the web browser history. So if you get content dynamically, you can just push something in through the history API. I think especially, is there anyone here working for a bank? No? So my pet hate, and maybe it's just Swedish banks, but my pet hate is bank websites. Because if you go to a bank website, it's always, you know, if you click the back button, at least in my banks, they're the ones I ever use, the bank starts yelling at you. Like, it's like, no, you're doing it wrong. We spent a lot of money to build our shitty navigation, so you have to use that. And it's so annoying. So I think that's why History API is so important, just to make things easier for users. Because we have back and forward buttons in the web browser for a reason. That's how we use most websites. Why can't you use all websites like that? And looking at the code for that, basically in web browsers we had the history object for a long time. And now we have a new method called push state. And push state basically takes three different parameters. The state that you can push in, which is a JavaScript object, the title of the page you want to have there, and the actual URL of the page. So in this case, for instance, you can have a URL that will be my website, you have the title you want, and you also have a state object. And the state object, you can pretty much put everything you want to it. It's more a way for you to reference it later.